They called for help, and the Deathworlders' armada answered Part 1. The desperate call when allies turned silent, the emergency council chamber of the Valorian coalition hummed with tension as another casualty report scrolled across the massive display screens. Ambassador Lyran pressed her palm against the cool glass window, watching distant explosions light up the night sky over their capital city. Each flash represented another building destroyed, another neighborhood turned to ash, another 100 lives extinguished by the Krath Dominion's relentless assault. 7 days, General Torvak said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. 7 days since the Krath fleet entered our system, and we have lost 40% of our defensive capabilities. He gestured toward the tactical map, where red markers representing enemy positions vastly outnumbered the dwindling blue dots of Valorian forces. At this rate, we have perhaps 5 days before the capital falls. Maybe less. Lyran turned from the window to face the assembled council members. Each face reflected the same desperate reality. The Valorian coalition, once proud and prosperous, stood at the edge of total extinction. The Krath had come without warning, without negotiation, without mercy. Their demands were simple: complete surrender or complete annihilation. They had already demonstrated their willingness to follow through on that threat across 3 of the coalition's outer colonies. What response have we received from the Galactic Council? Councillor Vess asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Nothing substantial, Lyran replied bitterly. They expressed their deep concern. They condemned the Krath aggression in the strongest possible terms. They promised to hold emergency sessions to discuss potential responses. She slammed her fist against the display panel. Empty words while our people die. They discuss while we burn. The Valorian coalition had faithfully served the galactic community for 3 centuries. They had signed treaties, honored agreements, contributed resources and technology to joint projects. They had believed themselves protected by the framework of interstellar law and mutual defense pacts. That belief had proven tragically naive. The Taraxian Empire sent a formal statement declining military assistance. General Torvak continued reading from his reports. They cite concerns about provoking wider conflict. The Zephyron Collective claims their forces are committed elsewhere and cannot be redeployed in time. The Korth Federation suggests we seek diplomatic resolution with the Krath. Diplomatic resolution? Councillor Vess laughed without humor. The Krath commander broadcast his terms yesterday. Total submission, dismantling of our government, occupation of all our worlds, and integration of our population into their labor systems. That is their idea of diplomacy. Lyran felt the weight of failure pressing down on her shoulders. As chief ambassador, she had spent decades building relationships with other civilizations. She had attended countless diplomatic functions, negotiated trade agreements, fostered cultural exchanges. She had believed in the system. Now that system had revealed its true nature. When tested, when their supposed allies were called upon to honor their commitments, they had all found convenient excuses. The communication console chirped unexpectedly. A junior officer looked up with confusion. Ambassador, we are receiving an incoming transmission from an unknown source. The signal is using standard diplomatic frequencies, but the origin point does not match any known civilization in our database. Put it through, Lyran said. At this point, any contact was worth investigating. The holographic display activated, revealing a human female in a dark military uniform. Lyran recognized the species from the Galactic Registry. Humans had joined the interstellar community approximately 60 years ago. Most established civilizations dismissed them as newcomers from a harsh world, too aggressive and unpredictable to be trusted with significant responsibility. The Valorians had minimal contact with them beyond basic trade arrangements. Ambassador Lyran, the human said, her voice calm and professional despite the obvious crisis. My name is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. We intercepted your distress signals. We understand your situation is critical. We are prepared to offer immediate military intervention. The council chamber fell silent. General Torvak leaned forward. His tactical mind immediately engaged despite his surprise. Commander Chen, our distress signals were transmitted on secured diplomatic channels to our treaty partners. How did your people access those transmissions? Chen's expression remained neutral. We monitor many communication frequencies, General. The details of how are less important than what we discovered. The Krath Dominion has committed over 500 warships to your system. They have established occupation forces on 3 of your colonies. Your defensive fleet has been reduced to approximately 100 operational vessels. You have perhaps 120 hours before your capital world is overwhelmed. These facts are accurate, yes? Lyran nodded slowly, unsettled by the precision of the human's intelligence. That assessment is correct. Commander, forgive my directness, but why would humanity offer assistance? We have no alliance with your people. No treaties, no mutual defense agreements. What would you gain from involving yourselves in our conflict? We would gain the knowledge that we helped prevent genocide, Chen replied simply. Ambassador, my government believes in certain principles. One of those principles is that powerful civilizations have a responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Another is that we judge species by their actions, not their political connections or economic value. The Krath are committing atrocities. You need help. We can provide it. The calculation is not more complicated than that. Counselor Vess spoke up, her voice skeptical. Commander, with all respect to your people, the Krath have 500 warships crewed by experienced warriors. They have conquered 7 systems in the past decade. What force could humanity possibly deploy that would make a difference against such overwhelming numbers? Chen glanced at something off-screen, then returned her attention to the Council. Admiral Marcus Webb is currently assembling the 3rd Fleet at Earth Station Gamma. You will have approximately 350 warships plus full ground assault capabilities for planetary liberation. We can be in your system within 72 hours. Is that sufficient force to make a difference, Counselor? The Council members stared at the display in shocked silence. 350 warships represented more military power than most civilizations could assemble in months of preparation. The humans claimed they could deploy such a force in 3 days. That seems impossible, General Torvak said carefully. The logistics alone would require weeks of coordination. Fuel, ammunition, personnel deployment, tactical planning. No civilization moves that quickly. We are not like most civilizations, General, Chen said. We come from a world that taught us to expect the unexpected and respond accordingly. Earth is what galactic classification calls a Class 12 death world. Everything on our planet tries to kill us. The weather, the terrain, the native predators, the diseases. We evolved learning to adapt quickly or die. That evolutionary pressure shaped how we approach everything, including military logistics. Lyran felt torn between hope and fear. The humans were offering salvation, but they were also unknown. Deathworlders had a reputation throughout the galaxy. They were considered dangerous, unpredictable, excessively violent. Their homeworld's extreme conditions had created species with capabilities that made other civilizations uncomfortable. Many governments maintained strict limitations on contact with Deathworlder populations. But what choice did the Valorians have? Their supposed allies had abandoned them. The Krath were approaching the capital. Her people were dying. She could accept help from these mysterious Deathworlders, or she could watch her civilization cease to exist. What are your terms, Commander? Lyran asked. What would humanity demand in exchange for this intervention? Chen's expression softened slightly. We can discuss terms after we deal with the Krath ambassador. Right now, time is critical. I need your decision. Will you accept our assistance? How can you promise to arrive in 72 hours? Counselor Vess pressed. Even if you departed immediately, the distance from Earth to our system requires at least 5 days of faster-than-light travel, using standard jump technology. We do not use standard jump technology, Chen replied. Our drives operate on different principles. We will arrive when we say we will arrive. General Torvak looked at Lyran, and she saw the same desperate calculation in his eyes that she felt in her heart. They were being offered a chance. Perhaps their only chance. The reputation of Deathworlders was frightening, but the reality of the Krath was immediately deadly. Lyran took a deep breath and made her decision. Commander Chen, on behalf of the Valorian Coalition, we accept your offer of assistance. Please help us, Chen nodded with satisfaction. You made the right choice, Ambassador. Maintain your defensive positions around the capital world. Do not attempt any offensive operations against the Krath fleet. Preserve your forces and protect civilian population centers. Help is coming. How can we be certain you will arrive in time? Lyran asked. Because Admiral Webb and the 3rd Fleet departed from Earth 6 hours ago, Chen replied. We did not wait for your permission because we knew you would need time to decide. We understood the urgency even if you did not yet trust us. Admiral Webb will arrive in your system in exactly 66 hours and 14 minutes. Hold until then, Ambassador. We will not fail you. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Lyran looked at her fellow leaders and saw her own mixture of emotions reflected in their faces. Hope, fear, uncertainty, desperation. Did we just invite Deathworlders into our home system? Counselor Vess whispered. Do we understand what we have done? We invited help, Lyran said firmly, trying to convince herself as much as the council. The Galactic Council failed us. The Taraxian Empire abandoned us. The Zephyron Collective made excuses. The humans answered. That is what matters. General Torvak began issuing orders to his military commanders. All fleet elements fall back to defensive positions around the capital. Prioritize protection of civilian evacuation routes and population centers. No offensive operations. We need to survive for 66 hours. Lyran walked back to the window overlooking the city. In the distance, she could see fires burning in the industrial sector where Krath missiles had struck. The sky was filled with defensive fire as orbital platforms attempted to intercept incoming attacks. Her world was dying, and strangers from a harsh world were coming to save it. She activated her personal communication device and sent a message to her family hiding in the underground shelters. Hold on, stay strong. Help is coming from unexpected places. We are not alone anymore. In the darkness of space beyond the system's edge, the Krath fleet continued its methodical advance. Their commanders were confident. The Valorians were broken and isolated. Their allies had abandoned them. Victory was certain and inevitable. Nothing could prevent the fall of the Valorian capital. The Krath had no knowledge of Earth, no understanding of Deathworlders, no concept of what was racing toward them through the void. They did not know that sometimes the most dangerous response comes not from expected allies, but from unexpected heroes. They did not know that humanity had heard the call for help and answered with overwhelming force. They were about to learn why Deathworlders were feared throughout the galaxy, and why that fear was entirely justified. The Deathworlders' arrived thunder from Earth General Torvak had not slept in 63 hours. He stood in the command center, monitoring the tactical displays as Krath forces pressed ever closer to the capital world. The Valorian fleet had been reduced to 74 operational vessels, all damaged, all running critically low on ammunition and power reserves. They had held the line as Commander Chen requested, but the cost had been terrible. General, we are detecting massive spatial distortions at the system boundary, a sensor operator called out, her voice rising with sudden excitement. Multiple jump signatures, very large energy readings, hundreds of them. Torvak felt his heart skip a beat. If the Krath had brought reinforcements, everything was lost. Even the promised human fleet could not overcome such overwhelming numbers. He had gambled his people's survival on the word of strangers, and now they would pay the ultimate price for his desperate decision. Identify those signatures immediately, he ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. Are they Krath vessels? The operator worked frantically at her console, analyzing the incoming data. Negative, General. These are not Krath energy patterns. Configuration is completely unknown. Wait, I am receiving identification codes now. They match the authentication sequence Commander Chen provided. General, it is the human fleet. They are here. The tactical display updated, and Torvak stared at it in absolute disbelief. The human fleet had not simply arrived in the system. They had emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, positioned precisely to surround the Krath forces that had been advancing on the capital. 352 warships materialized in a coordinated pattern that should have been impossible to achieve. How did they do that? Counselor Vess whispered from her position beside Torvak. Jump calculations require hours of precise calculation to avoid colliding with gravity wells and existing matter. They appeared exactly where they needed to be, all simultaneously. That level of coordination should not be possible. Open communication channels to the human fleet, Torvak ordered. I need to speak with Admiral Webb immediately. A moment later, a human male appeared on the command display. He was older than Commander Chen, with gray hair and eyes that seemed to assess everything with calculating precision. He wore a uniform marked with insignia that Torvak's database identified as indicating very high rank within human military hierarchy. General Torvak, the human said, I am Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Earth Space Command 3rd Fleet. We are here to assist you. Please withdraw your remaining vessels to safe distance behind our formation and allow us to engage the Krath. Admiral Webb, thank you for coming, Torvak replied, his voice thick with emotion. But there are over 500 Krath warships in this system. Are you certain your force is adequate? Webb smiled, and there was something cold and predatory in that expression. General, we are more than adequate, trust me. Your people have fought bravely to hold this long. Now let us show you how Deathworlders fight wars. The Krath had also noticed the sudden appearance of the human fleet. Their command vessel broadcast on all standard frequencies. Unknown vessels, you are interfering in a legitimate military operation. The Valorian coalition has been judged and found wanting. Their worlds will be integrated into the Krath Dominion. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is your only warning. Another human appeared on the communication channels. This one wore a different uniform and had the bearing of someone who had seen countless battles. This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the UNS Thunderstrike. To the Krath Dominion fleet, you have committed acts of aggression against a sovereign civilization. You have targeted civilian populations. You have violated every principle of civilized warfare. You are ordered to withdraw from Valorian space immediately. Leave now and you will be permitted to depart safely. Refuse and we will remove you by force. The Krath commander's laughter echoed through the communication system. You are Deathworlders, primitives from a savage world. We have conquered 7 systems. We have destroyed fleets twice your size. You will be crushed and forgotten. This is your final opportunity to flee back to your little planet before we demonstrate why the Krath Dominion is feared throughout this sector. Captain Rodriguez's expression did not change. Admiral Webb, the Krath have refused our terms and threatened human forces. So I heard, Captain, Webb replied calmly. All ships weapons free. Target the Krath fleet. Show them why you never threaten humans. The Krath fired first, launching a massive barrage of missiles and energy weapons toward the human formation. Torvak watched in horror, certain he was about to witness the destruction of the fleet that had come to save his people. But the humans did not scatter in panic. They did not break formation or retreat. They responded with disciplined precision. Human point defense systems activated across the entire fleet, creating an interconnected web of defensive fire. Thousands of small projectile weapons tracked incoming missiles with computer-guided accuracy, intercepting them long before they reached their targets. Energy shields flared and held under the barrage. And then the human fleet returned fire. The technological difference became immediately and brutally apparent. Human weapons were faster, more accurate, and devastatingly more powerful than Krath designs. Railgun systems accelerated projectiles to velocities that Valorian physicists would have considered impossible. These projectiles punched through Krath shields as if they were decorative paper. Missile systems launched weapons that tracked multiple targets simultaneously, adjusting their trajectories in flight to counter defensive maneuvers. Energy weapons cut through Krath hull plating with surgical precision, targeting critical systems with deadly accuracy. More impressive than the weapons themselves was the tactical coordination. The human fleet moved as a single organism. Ships covered each other with overlapping fields of fire. When one vessel's shields weakened, another repositioned to provide protection. They seemed to know instinctively where to strike Krath vessels to cause maximum damage with minimum ammunition expenditure. Within the first 10 minutes of engagement, 23 Krath ships were destroyed. Within 30 minutes, that number had climbed to 78. The Krath fleet attempted to break formation and scatter, hoping to use their superior numbers to flank the human forces. The humans had anticipated this maneuver. Destroyer groups broke away from the main fleet to intercept, maintaining perfect formation even while executing complex tactical movements. They are not just fighting, Ambassador Lyran observed, watching the battle from the command center. They are controlling the entire engagement. Look at how they force the Krath into positions where they cannot maneuver effectively. Every movement seems calculated. They fight like they have done this 1,000 times before, Torvak said quietly. Perhaps they have. Deathworlders. They evolved fighting each other on a planet that tried to kill them every moment. This is in their nature. The Krath attempted one desperate strategy. A significant portion of their fleet broke through the human lines and raced toward the Valorian capital, planning to use the civilian population as hostages. The humans had predicted this tactic. A wall of human cruisers materialized in their path, having anticipated the move and positioned themselves accordingly. The Krath ships that tried to force through were met with concentrated fire from multiple directions. They died quickly and decisively. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the command center speakers. General Torvak, you may want to evacuate non-essential personnel from orbital platforms. The Krath are becoming desperate. They may attempt suicide attacks against your infrastructure. Understood, Captain, Torvak replied, impressed that the humans had thought to warn them of this possibility. He issued the necessary evacuation orders immediately. The battle continued for 3 more hours. The Krath fought with the desperation of cornered predators, but they were outmatched in every conceivable way. Their weapons could not penetrate human defenses. Their tactics could not counter human strategy. Their commanders could not predict human movements. This was not a battle between equal forces. This was a comprehensive demonstration of why Deathworlders were feared throughout the galaxy. Finally, with 2/3 of their fleet destroyed or crippled, the Krath commander sent a transmission. We surrender. Cease fire. We will withdraw from this system. Admiral Webb's response was immediate. Surrender accepted. All Krath vessels will lower shields and power down weapon systems. You will proceed to the system edge under armed escort. Any deviation from designated routes will be considered hostile action and will be met with immediate destruction. Any vessel that targets Valorian positions will be destroyed. You have one opportunity to leave alive. Do not waste it. The Krath had no choice. Their fleet, once proud and confident, limped toward the system boundary under the watchful eyes of human destroyers. Ships that had terrorized 7 systems retreated in defeat and humiliation. Torvak looked at the tactical display showing the aftermath of the battle. The space around the capital was filled with debris from destroyed Krath vessels. The human fleet had sustained some damage, but their casualty rate was remarkably low. They had achieved total victory against superior numbers through superior technology, tactics, and coordination. Admiral Webb's face appeared on the display again.
General Torvak, the space battle is concluded.
However, I understand the Krath established occupation forces on 3 of your colonies. Commander Sarah Chen is coordinating ground assault teams. With your permission, we will liberate those worlds immediately. You have my permission, Admiral, Torvak said. Admiral Webb, I do not have adequate words to express our gratitude. You saved our entire civilization. Save your gratitude, General, Webb replied. Your people are still in danger on those occupied colonies. We will speak of thanks after everyone is safe. Webb out. The transmission ended. Lyran looked at Torvak, tears flowing freely down her face. They came. The Deathworlders actually came. They kept their promise. They did more than come, Torvak said, his voice filled with wonder. They made it look effortless. What kind of civilization possesses such capability? Counselor Vest stared at the tactical display where human ships were already forming up for planetary assault operations. A civilization that understands war too well. A civilization that has fought itself for thousands of years before achieving peace. We invited them here. I hope we truly understand what that means for our future. Torvak thought about the precision of the human attack, the cold efficiency, the complete lack of hesitation or unnecessary cruelty toward the enemy. Yes, the humans had saved them. But Vess was correct to be concerned. The Deathworlders were not like other species. They were something different, something powerful, something the galaxy had not fully comprehended. On the surface of the occupied colonies, Krath soldiers were about to learn the same lesson their fleet had just received. They were about to discover that humans were even more dangerous on the ground than they were in space. They were about to understand why you never threaten a species that evolved as apex predators on a Deathworld. The liberation was about to begin, and it would be swift, decisive, and utterly uncompromising. A new galactic order, the cost of broken promises. 3 weeks after the liberation of the Valorian coalition, Admiral Marcus Webb stood in the council chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing reconstruction efforts across all liberated worlds. The human intervention had been completely successful. All 3 occupied colonies were free. The Krath had withdrawn entirely from Valorian space. Civilian casualties had been minimized through rapid deployment of human medical and humanitarian teams. The Valorians were rebuilding with assistance from Human Engineering Corps. Ambassador Lyran and the council members sat before Webb, their expressions showing a mixture of profound gratitude and growing concern. The immediate crisis had passed, but now they faced a new question. What did humanity want in return for their intervention? In galactic politics, military assistance always came with a price. Always. Admiral Webb, Counselor Vess began carefully. "We are eternally grateful for your assistance. You saved our civilization from extinction. Now we must discuss terms of repayment. What does humanity want in exchange for this intervention?" Webb had been expecting this conversation. Every species in the galaxy operated on the same fundamental assumption. Help was never free. There was always exploitation hidden behind friendly words. The Valorians expected humans to demand territory, resources, or political control. They were about to be surprised. "What do we want?" Webb repeated slowly. "We want the Krath to stop killing innocent people. That goal has been accomplished. We want peaceful civilizations to be able to live without fear of conquest. That objective is ongoing. We want the galaxy to understand that aggression against defenseless populations will not be tolerated. That message has been clearly delivered." General Torvak leaned forward. "Admiral, with all respect, that is not a meaningful answer. You deployed over 300 warships and thousands of soldiers. You expended significant ammunition, fuel, and resources. Some of your people were injured during operations. Surely you expect compensation for these costs." "Our injured personnel are recovering well, thank you for asking," Webb replied. "As for operational costs, yes, this intervention was expensive. But we did not come here to profit from your crisis, General. We came because you needed help and we possess the capability to provide it." The council members looked at each other in confusion. This conversation was not following any familiar pattern in galactic diplomacy. Ambassador Lyran spoke carefully. "Admiral, I do not understand. In galactic politics, military intervention always comes with conditions. Territory concessions, resource extraction rights, favorable trade agreements, political influence. The established powers have been doing this for centuries. Are you truly saying humanity wants nothing?" "I am saying we do not want to exploit you," Webb clarified. "But I did not say we want nothing. We have conditions, though they may not be what you expect." Here it comes, Counselor Vess thought. The real demands. She prepared herself for unreasonable requests that would transform salvation into a different form of subjugation. "First," Webb said, "we require a formal investigation into why your treaty partners failed to honor their defense obligations. The Galactic Council, the Taraxian Empire, the Zephyron Collective, and every other power that signed mutual defense agreements with you had legal obligations to respond to your distress calls. They chose not to. We want to know why, and we want those findings made public." Lyran blinked in surprise. "That is your condition? An investigation into our former allies?" "One of our conditions," Webb confirmed. "The Galactic Council presents itself as the guardian of interstellar law and order. The Taraxian Empire claims to be a champion of smaller civilizations. The Zephyron Collective advertises itself as devoted to mutual protection. But they all abandoned you when you needed them most. If they did this to you, they have likely done it to others. The galaxy deserves to know the truth about them." Commander Sarah Chen, who had accompanied Webb to the council meeting, added, "The Admiral is correct. We have been studying galactic politics since joining the interstellar community. We have identified a clear pattern. The established powers maintain their dominance not through genuine cooperation, but through selective enforcement of their commitments. They help when it benefits them and find convenient excuses when it does not. This corruption needs to be exposed." Torvak nodded slowly. "We can agree to that investigation. The Galactic Council has much to answer for. What are your other conditions, Admiral?" "Second," Webb continued, "we offer you a formal defensive alliance with humanity. Not a client-state arrangement. Not a vassal relationship. A genuine alliance between equals. We will help defend you if attacked. You will help defend human interests if we are threatened. All terms will be clearly documented with no hidden clauses or ambiguous language. You will know exactly what you are agreeing to before you sign anything." The council chamber fell completely silent. This was unprecedented in modern galactic politics. Counselor Vess finally found her voice. "An alliance between equals? Admiral, no offense intended. But you just saved our entire civilization. We are hardly your equals in any meaningful sense." "Militarily, perhaps not," Webb admitted. "But you possess things we do not. Scientific knowledge in areas we are still developing. Cultural perspectives that differ from our own. Experience in galactic politics and diplomacy. An alliance is not about measuring who is stronger. It is about working together toward common goals. We believe in partnerships, not domination." Ambassador Lyran felt tears forming in her eyes. "You are serious. You actually mean this. You do not want to control us or exploit us." Commander Chen spoke gently. "Ambassador, Where we come from, alliances mean something real. When we say we will stand with you, we mean it. Not just when it is convenient, but especially when it is difficult. That is what we are offering the Valorian Coalition. Counselor Vess stood up, her voice shaking slightly. Why? Why would you do this for people you barely know? We are not powerful. We cannot offer you anything of significant strategic value. Why treat us as equals when you could dictate any terms you wanted? Webb was quiet for a long moment, choosing his words with care. On Earth, we have a long and painful history. Thousands of years of wars, betrayals, conquests, and suffering. We almost destroyed ourselves multiple times. But we learned something crucial through all that pain. We learned that strength without honor is worthless. We learned that the powerful have a responsibility to protect the vulnerable, not exploit them. We learned that real power comes from cooperation, not domination. He gestured to the holographic displays showing human soldiers helping rebuild Valorian infrastructure. Every person in my fleet volunteered for this mission. They knew the risks. Some were injured, and they would undertake the same mission again without hesitation. Do you know why? Because they understand something fundamental about humanity. We are at our best when we are helping others. That is what defines us, not our weapons or our technology or our combat capabilities. General Torvak stood and performed a deep bow, a gesture of profound respect in Valorian culture. Admiral Webb, on behalf of the Valorian Coalition, we accept your alliance offer. We will cooperate with your investigation into the treaty failures, and we will be honored to call humanity our partners. The other council members stood as well, bowing in agreement. Even Vess, who had been most skeptical, showed genuine emotion. The galaxy does not understand what you are, Vess said quietly. They see Deathworlders and think only of violence and danger. They do not see what we see now. They do not understand that the thing which makes you most dangerous is also the thing which makes you most trustworthy. Webb smiled. They will learn, Counselor. The galaxy has been operating under certain rules for a very long time. Rules that favor the powerful and allow the strong to ignore their obligations when convenient. Those rules are about to change. Over the following weeks, the investigation into the treaty failures began. Human intelligence specialists worked alongside Valorian diplomats to review communication records, defense pact documents, and military deployment schedules. What they discovered shocked even the most cynical observers. The Galactic Council had received the Valorian distress signal immediately. They had forces positioned to respond within the required time frame, but they had made a calculated political decision. They believed the Valorians would be defeated quickly. After the Krath victory, they planned to offer humanitarian assistance and help with reconstruction. In exchange, they would gain control of several resource-rich Valorian territories and establish permanent monitoring stations in the system. It was not neglect. It was not miscommunication. It was not bureaucratic delay. It was deliberate abandonment for political and economic gain. The Taraxian Empire had followed a similar calculation. They had determined that intervening would be costly and might antagonize the Krath, with whom they were negotiating trade agreements in other sectors. The Valorians were expendable. The trade deals were valuable. The Zephyron Collective had actually been the worst. They had encouraged the Valorians to resist the Krath while secretly informing Krath commanders of Valorian defensive positions. They had planned to purchase several Valorian colonies from the Krath at favorable prices after the conquest was complete. Commander Chen presented these findings to the Galactic Assembly via public broadcast, backed by irrefutable evidence. The response was immediate and explosive. Dozens of smaller civilizations came forward with similar stories of abandonment and betrayal. The established powers had built their dominance on a foundation of selective protection and calculated exploitation. The Galactic Council issued statements condemning human interference and accusing Webb of military imperialism. But the evidence was clear and undeniable. Their carefully maintained reputation collapsed within days. In the Valorian Council chamber, Ambassador Lyran watched the galactic news feeds with satisfaction. The Council's authority is finished. No one will trust them again. That was necessary, Webb agreed. But it is only the beginning. Other species are watching what happened here. They are seeing that humans keep our commitments. They are seeing that we judge civilizations by their actions, not their status or political connections. Will others seek alliance with humanity? Torvak asked. They already have, Chen replied. We have received 23 formal requests for defensive pacts from smaller civilizations, species who have been disappointed by the established powers. They want what the Valorians have now. Real allies who will actually help when help is needed. Vess looked thoughtful. This will change everything, Admiral. The old powers have maintained control for centuries through selective protection and strategic abandonment. If humanity offers genuine protection to anyone who requests it, their entire system collapses. That is exactly the idea, Counselor, Webb said. We did not come to the galaxy to fit into the existing corrupt order. We came to build something better. Starting here with the Valorians, we are showing everyone that there is another way to organize interstellar relations. Lyran smiled, though her expression also carried concern. The established powers will not accept this challenge easily, Admiral. They will resist. Yes, Webb agreed. They will. But that is a challenge for another day. Today we celebrate. The Valorian coalition is free. The truth has been revealed. And the galaxy is beginning to understand what humanity stands for. 6 months later, Ambassador Lyran stood in the human embassy on Earth, looking out at the planet that had changed everything. The view from the orbital platform was breathtaking. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in patterns that revealed the fierce weather systems humans considered normal. This was the Deathworld that had forged the species now reshaping galactic politics. It is beautiful, she said to Commander Chen, who stood beside her. I did not expect that. The reports make Earth sound like a nightmare world, Chen smiled. It can be harsh. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, extreme temperature variations. We have predators that can kill with a single bite, and diseases that can devastate entire populations. But it is also home. The harshness taught us to be strong. The beauty taught us what we were being strong for. Down on the planet's surface, representatives from 37 different civilizations were gathering for a historic conference. Humanity was proposing a new framework for interstellar cooperation, not based on exploitation or selective protection, but on genuine mutual support and clearly defined obligations. The established powers were attending as well, though their delegations were small and their attitudes defensive. They recognized that their old system was collapsing. The question was whether they would adapt to the new reality or attempt to resist it. Do you think they will accept the new framework? Lyran asked. Some will, Chen replied. Others will resist until they have no choice. But change is coming whether they like it or not. The smaller civilizations have seen what genuine alliance looks like. They will not accept less anymore. Lyran thought about the journey that had brought her here. 3 weeks of terror as her civilization faced extinction, the desperate acceptance of help from unknown Deathworlders, the stunning victory that had saved her people, the discovery that strength and honor could coexist, the revelation of corruption at the highest levels of galactic governance. Your people saved us, she said quietly, but you did more than that. You showed us what the galaxy could be, what it should be. We showed you what we learned the hard way, Chen replied. Earth taught us to be strong. Our own history taught us that strength must be tempered with responsibility. We almost destroyed ourselves before we figured that out. Now we are trying to help others avoid making the same mistakes. Through the window, Lyran could see the conference center, where the future of galactic civilization was being debated and shaped. The old order was dying. A new order was being born. And at the center of it all was humanity. The Deathworlders who had answered a desperate call for help and changed everything. Thank you, Lyran said simply. For everything,